So, in my opinion, there's several different nations you can play in Universalis Remastered that would be the best nation to play. And there's several options. First, I'm going to go over Western Europe. The problem with France in particular, because people might think France is number one in the game, but in terms of a long-term strategy, maybe not. Because the thing with France is, you tend to have a problem with Burgundy and England. They may tend to team up on you, and especially Burgundy. But England too, they don't want to lose their lands in France, and France has an ambition to get them. But France can ally with Spain, but the problem with Spain is they can be enemies with Aragon, Navarre, Granada, Portugal, Morocco, Tunis, Algiers. It's called Tlemcen, but Algeria basically. So Spain is also not in that great of a position. So England could leverage their area against France very well. But if you manage to survive as France, you'd probably be at, in my opinion, number 2 or number 3 spot for best countries to play. Probably number 2, honestly. Although, yeah, no, it's number 2. Still a country I think is better than France to play at game start. Anyway, now on to Italy. Italy has several players they could contend for best country to play as, especially for the long-term potential in later game. So you have 5 areas: Venice, Milan, Florence, Papal, and Naples. Papal is more of a influence, soft power thing, so military power. So if you're Naples, for example, you could just conquer Papal, and that'd be it. I mean, I guess you could release Avignon, and or maybe just send it to France, and then Papal just be gone. So not Papal. Florence, in my opinion, you could form Tuscany, sure, but that's still Venice. Anyway, along with that area, Genoa and Milan, they're pretty good to play, but Genoa and Milan could have some contests, and I think that would be in Milan's favor. But Venice would probably be interested in conquering Milan first. So, as a Milan player, I don't think you're beating Venice unless you're skilled or something. And also, Austria has ambitions on Venice too, usually, because that's just very good trade for Austria, and also the Croatian coast, and just borders, just nice. Anyway, Naples is okay. If you conquer Rome and Tuscany and Venice doesn't stop you, then you're probably able to conquer Venice at that point, or strike into Italy. But enough about Italy. Let's go into Germany. So we have 4 or 5 contenders here: Sweden, Denmark, Teutons, Bohemia, and Austria. And I guess there's Ulm too. Nah, just kidding. Anyway, Sweden, you're probably losing to Denmark, just because Denmark has more dev. And one thing about Denmark is you could actually walk across it, which is not historical, but I guess that's how the game works, I guess. Well, once the stuff freezes over, I guess, anyway. So that feature nerfs Denmark a lot. So Sweden does actually have a chance against Denmark, but I don't think they're actually winning that. Anyway, now for Denmark. Denmark, you could consolidate Scandinavia pretty easily. You could take Lubeck and Hamburg. Those are pretty good trading spots. So Denmark is in a really good position, but one problem is the Teutonic Order. They have ambitions in Germany usually, so yeah. Anyway, the Teutonic Order does have some other issues like Poland, and Lithuania could be a really good help in that regard. So Lithuania is also a contender for the best country to play game start. Anyway, now into Southwestern Europe. Bohemia and Austria. Austria's pretty good, but you have conflicts with Hungary. And also Bohemia. And Bohemia's, I would say, comparable with Austria's strength, so there's a Bohemia player who could just beat Austria. Anyway, the Ottomans, you have issues with the Byzantines. You have issues with Hungary sometimes, Iraq, and the Mamluks. But I placed the Mamluks below the Ottomans. Also, Tunis and Morocco are pretty good. I'll have them in honorable mentions later, I think. Also, Portugal is pretty okay too. but I prefer Morocco in that group. Anyway, Mamluks, I placed them below the Ottomans, even though they have more dev, because the Ottomans have a special war goal against the Mamluks, and if the Mamluks lose that, they're basically just cooked. So, the Ottomans, I'd probably say they're one of the contenders for top spot. Arabia doesn't get much mention here. Other than Hejaz, the Mamluks usually don't go into Arabia that much, like past Medina. So Hejaz is usually fine to just conquer more of Arabia. Anyway, Iraq, you have some conflicts with the Timurids, and the Timurids might have some interest in Karkunilu. So I'd favor the Timurids in that regard. Also, Transoxiana, you don't have the Golden Horde formable for Transoxiana, and also the Timurids exist, so, that's kind of an issue. Also, you can't form the Great Horde as Transoxiana, it's just Golden Horde that could do that. Well, just swap those two words. But Transoxiana, they are a pretty good contender. They got some claims. I'm checking the claim app right now, it's not that bad, but it's still not as great as the Golden Horde stuff. And also, you have the claim map, so you can just get that out of the way. Anyway, the Transoxians are a horde, though. I tried to make this obvious in the video, but I still have claims, so yeah. Anyway, the horde is also pretty good. You have the formable, but as horde, you should probably just take Kazan first. Or really, I think you're strong enough to beat Muscovy 1-on-1 without taking Kazan. You have that little gap you just walk across, but if you take Kazan, you're probably winning against Muscovy. And on to Muscovy and Novgorod. Novgorod is just weaker Muscovy, so let's just ignore them here. Muscovy, they're in a good position, I guess, but if Lithuania forms a Lithuanian Commonwealth, and by Muscovy's standard, you probably only have Novgorod, some of Novgorod, Perm and Veps by then, and Tver, I guess. Maybe Pskov. That'd be the max you get in that time frame. And assuming the Golden Horde doesn't invade, Lithuania would probably beat you in that war. Well, I guess Poland, Lithuania. Anyway, now for the ranking. In my opinion, Timurids are number 1 here. They just have such a good position. They're far away from any of the major powers, really. Anyway, now on to the rest of Europe. Lithuania, I'd place as number 2. They also have a really good position like the Timurids. They're usually not threatened by anyone. If you form both Lithuanian Commonwealth, you could just crush Muscovy, usually. I'd place Ottomans at number 3, just because they beat the Mamluks because of the CB. I put the Mamluks at 4th, and the English at 5th. But honorary mentions, France would get 2nd if they beat the English, as I mentioned, English from Burgundians, they'd get 2nd in this category. And Lithuania go down a spot. But also, Morocco and Portugal, and Spain too. Really, the Western European main blocks from Sweden, Scotland, England, France, Spain, Portugal, maybe Grenada, Morocco. They're really good at colonizing, Morocco especially, so if you play Morocco well, you could probably get into top 5. But that's about the end of the video. See you guys.